What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we have to talk about the worst case scenario for Crysis 4. This is something that I did not expect to wake up to. This obviously happened before the state of play and the rest of the day kind of unveiled itself, but really sad. You know, Crysis 4, I made a video on it just a month and a half ago, and we talked about kind of quietly this game was announced back in January of 2022. So it's actually been 3 years since this game was first announced, and I talked about, again, a little while ago that maybe this was the year, right? Maybe this is the year that we finally see it because, yeah, no trailer, no nothing crazy, but they say it's in development. 3 years have passed. You got to be ready to show something, right? The answer is wrong because it's not canceled. Maybe that would be the worst case scenario, but it is put on hold indefinitely, which is probably as close to canceling it that you're going to get without actually saying it. So we'll see. I'm not pleased, and let's just kind of read Crytek's statement where they kind of explain it at least a little bit. Like so many of our peers, we aren't immune to the complex, unfavorable market dynamics that have hit our industry these past several years. It pains us greatly to share today that we must lay off an estimated 15% of our around 400 employees. The layoffs affect development teams and shared services. This has not been an easy decision to make as we deeply appreciate the hard work of our talented teams. After putting the development of the next Crysis game on hold in Q3 2024, we've been trying to shift developers over to the Hunt Showdown 1896. While the Hunt Showdown 1896 is still growing, Crytek cannot continue as before and remain financially sustainable. Even after ongoing efforts to reduce costs and cut operating expenses, we have determined that layoffs are inevitable to move forward. Crytek will offer affected employees severance packages and career assistance services. We firmly believe in the future of Crytek. With Hunt Showdown 1896, we have a very strong gaming service and remain fully committed to its operation. We will continue to expand and evolve that game with great content and drive our strategy for our engine, CryEngine. And let me tell you, I actually hate reading that. I didn't read all of that before I made this video. I only saw the Crysis part. So what they're saying is because of the last several years, they have to trim. I mean, what's that roughly? I think that's 60 people. Just quick math off the top of my head. So you're down from 400 to somewhere in like the low 300s, let's say, okay? So you're doing that, and you were trying to keep people. You put Crysis 4 on hold, and you are tripling, if not quadrupling down on one game, a live service game that you expect to seemingly grow forever and to support your company forever. Now, I know that's not exactly what they said, but truly, in my opinion, like they mentioned the industry, and then it's funny that they follow, in my opinion, right now, the traps of the industry, right? Like, now, granted, I've never played the Hunt Showdown 1896 or Hunt Showdown 1896. I've never played it. I think I saw that Ghostface came to it. That's pretty cool. I know it's live service, all that jazz. I'm not saying like the game can't exist. I'm not saying it's not a good game or it can't be a good game or whatever. But the idea is they are struggling. They have to lay off a good portion of their people, and then they are relying on one game and a live, and they stress it. They stress that it's like a live service, like this is going to be reoccurring money. And I keep saying this over and over and over, and it keeps happening over and over, and yet companies just don't seem to like get the hint. What happens if that game ever stumbles? Like literally ever, because you have another game in Crysis 4 that you could have done and you were doing, and you put on hold. It's not even they put it on hold yesterday, guys. They put this game on hold back in like freaking September, you know, maybe even slightly earlier of last year. This game, for all this time, you know, again, I made the video like a month ago. This entire time, for the last like 6+ months, they haven't even been working on Crysis 4. So it's like, I don't know. I hate that because I love Crysis. I want that game to come back. It's also one that I think the world kind of needs, and I do think actually would help their company. I think a new Crysis game done well, done right, which, by the way, could have a story, single player, and then also multiplayer, and you could have skins, you can have cosmetics, you could have whatever you want, and you can make some money with the multiplayer on top of just people buying the full product. So kind of a well-rounded game, at least done right and done the right way. You put that on hold. You don't cancel it, but you absolutely, in that message, do not make it sound like you're ever going back to it, at least in the short term or even the long term, because they say they're putting it on hold. They don't say when they're going back, and then they talk about just really jumping head on into this Hunt game and just solely focusing on it for seemingly like the rest of time. But the issue is, again, it's growing. They say, right? It's a game that's like it has been growing, and they expect it to continue to grow. What happens when it doesn't grow? What happens when it stumbles or plateaus or actually goes in reverse and starts to do worse? You're putting 340 people or whatever all on one game, and you're expecting that one live service game to support everything, and you're just gonna ride that till the end of days. Now, have companies done that? I mean, you could think like Dead by Daylight, say, right? Any game truly, like from like just a standalone studio that's made a live service game. Yeah, you can support a studio of a couple hundred people, but the thing is, not every game can do it, right? That's the scary thing, and that's the non-guarantee of live service games. Is not every live service game is guaranteed to make you money for the rest of your life, right? I think honestly, like Square Enix, where it's like how much they kind of rely on Final Fantasy, right? That online game to generate so much income, and then when they have a bad quarter, yeah, it can sometimes be attributed to other things, but also if you look at it, right? The last couple times they've had bad quarters, they look to Final Fantasy, the multiplayer, and they say, oh, it had a pretty bad quarter, right? Like it didn't make as much money as we were expecting. They need that game to make them so much money every single time, and if it falters just for like 3-4 months, they get destroyed, in their quarterly earnings. So it's the same thing here. Like, yeah, it's growing now, but in a year and a half from now, when Crysis 4 is still on hold, what if that game suffers like a real bad 6-month stretch? What if it just dies? I mean, that's the worst case, right? What if it freaking just ends? But then also, what if it just kind of does subpar for like half a year? It's the only thing you're doing. So I think it's terrible. I think that's a terrible, terrible idea. Yes, I'm not there, and I mean, take it for what it's worth. I'm not in a position of power like that, but I don't see how that is supposed to work. I don't see how this is the best outcome possible. That's just my opinion. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.